Number 6. Sophia Davila and Anthony Ashan Stout. Following a double murder at a home near Lantana, Florida on July the 22nd of 2020, the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office issued an arrest warrant for 22-year-old Anthony Ashan Stout. The latter's car, which had been flagged as belonging to a violent fleeing felon, was spotted by law enforcement in Northeast Florida a few hours after the homicides had been carried out. Stout fled from the officers and during the ensuing chase, ran over tire deflating spike strips that caused him to lose control of his vehicle and crash. While on the verge of being taken into police custody, Stout turned the weapon on himself and later died after being airlifted to Orange Park Medical Center. Prior to his fatal run-in with law enforcement, Stout had gunned down his ex-girlfriend, Sophia Davila, and her sister, Rebecca, at their Lantana residence. In 2018, the man had served 9 months in jail for assaulting a previous ex-girlfriend who'd filed a restraining order against him. In September of the following year, after Stout's relationship with Davila had come to an end, the latter sought to file a restraining order against him as well. She and her sister reported fearing for their safety as Stout had allegedly threatened to kill anyone who would file a protective order against him again. 2 months after the order was issued, the man was arrested for violating its terms. Then in July of 2020, he followed through on his threat against the Davila sisters. In the wake of the incident, the victim's family expressed hopes for a new form of legislation which would allow an individual with previous arrests for committing violent acts to be involuntarily committed for assessment so as to mitigate the risk of further offenses. Number 5. Chloe Griffiths and Terence Purvis. In August of 2016, Terence Purvis broke into his ex-girlfriend's house in the Australian coastal town of Port Macquarie. After tearing down a fence and forcing his way inside the home, the 30-year-old man reportedly attacked Chloe Griffiths and her mother Julie with a chainsaw. The two women sought refuge in a bedroom where they locked themselves along with Griffiths' 2 children. Purvis then allegedly used the power tool to cut down the door. The man then continued his assault but was eventually thwarted by Griffiths herself. Upon confronting her enraged ex-boyfriend, she was able to pry the chainsaw away from him. It was reported that the 2 children present at the scene had been left unharmed in Purvis' rampage. Griffiths sustained injuries to her hands and face, while her mother suffered a serious laceration to her arm that required major surgery to mend. Purvis reportedly turned himself into the authorities at the Port Macquarie police station just hours after the violent home invasion. He was ultimately sentenced to 5 years and a half in prison, with the possibility of parole after only 2 years. Griffiths burst into tears during the announcement of the man's sentence, which she and her mother found lenient to the point of being disrespectful towards the trauma with which they'd been left following the attack. Number 4. Philip Lobato and Nancy Jo Arias. A Colorado couple got into a heated argument in the parking lot of a Westminster liquor store at about 12:30 a.m. on August 11th of 2014. While they were sitting in their car, 38-year-old Nancy Jo Arias confronted her husband, Philip Lobato, about his alleged infidelity. The police later detailed how Lobato then punched his wife in the face several times before exiting the vehicle and continuing to hit her through the open driver's side window. Arias threatened to retaliate by hitting Lobato with the car, to which he'd allegedly responded by taunting her and saying she wouldn't do it. The woman later told investigators that she snapped in the heat of the moment and drove directly into her husband's path, striking him with the vehicle. The man was taken to a local hospital where he was ultimately pronounced dead. When officers arrived at the scene, they immediately noted that Arias smelled strongly of alcohol, and it was later determined that her blood alcohol content had been twice the legal driving limit at the time of the incident. She openly admitted to running her husband over, allegedly stating, "I'm one of those persons who get the last word." In July of 2015, Arias was convicted of manslaughter, vehicular homicide, and driving under the influence, for which she was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Number 3. Daniel Brophy and Nancy Crampton Brophy. At around 8 a.m. on June the 2nd of 2018, students at the Oregon Culinary Institute came upon a dead body on the floor of the facility's rear kitchen. The victim, identified as instructor Daniel Brophy, had reportedly suffered a gunshot wound to the back and one to the chest. After police began investigating the matter, they learned that Brophy's wife, romance novelist Nancy Crampton Brophy, had taken out several life insurance policies for her husband. Upon his death, the combined payout they generated left the woman with upwards of $1.5 million. Shortly thereafter, Crampton Brophy surrendered a firearm to the authorities that reportedly matched the style of gun used in her husband's shooting. Through further investigative work, it was determined that the woman had purchased a replacement slide and barrel on the internet, which she'd allegedly swapped out for the original parts in order to make it appear as if the gun hadn't been fired. In September of 2018, Crampton Brophy was arrested and charged with her husband's murder. In a darkly ironic twist, it emerged that a woman had previously written an essay titled "How to Murder Your Husband" and had also published a novel called The Wrong Husband, which depicted characters engaging in marital violence. Crampton Brophy's criminal trial commenced in the spring of 2022, and as of the most recent information available on the matter, the legal proceedings were still ongoing. Today's topic was requested by Haley Liu, an ex-Kazakh leader. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Molly Watson and James Addy. On April the 27th of 2018, 2 days before she was supposed to get married, Missouri resident Molly Watson was found dead outside her car on a rural road near Middle Grove. An autopsy conducted by a forensic pathologist at the University of Missouri found that 35-year-old Watson's death had been caused by a gunshot to the head. The fatal bullet was reportedly still lodged in the victim's skull at the time of the medical examination. The Missouri State Highway Patrol Crime Lab analyzed tire tracks found near the scene of the crime. It was subsequently determined that they matched tires taken from the car belonging to the victim's fiancé, James Addy. Further disturbing revelations followed his arrest and associated murder charge. Despite having been engaged to Watson at the time of her death, the man was also married to a different woman, Melanie Addy, with whom he'd been together for 22 years. Melanie revealed that she'd had absolutely no knowledge of her husband's extramarital affair with Watson, which had reportedly lasted for 7 years. During the case's legal proceedings, prosecutors proposed that Addy might have murdered Watson because she'd begun to suspect that he'd lied about his wife being dead. The theory was supported by the fact that the day before she was killed, Watson had searched online for Melanie Addy's obituary. In July of 2021, Addy was convicted of Watson's murder and was consequently sentenced to life in prison plus 10 years without the possibility of parole. Number 1. Shad Thyron and Taylor Schabusiness. On February the 21st of 2022, Wisconsin woman Taylor Schabusiness picked up her boyfriend, Shad Thyron, from his mother's house in Green Bay at about 9:30 p.m. They subsequently went to an apartment on Eastman Avenue along with the Schabusiness' roommate. They all began smoking marijuana, while the couple also allegedly partook in the use of methamphetamines, as well as an antidepressant called trazodone. Sometime later, Schabusiness and Thyron returned to the home of the latter's mother, where they reportedly spent much of the following day in the basement. At some point on February the 22nd, the couple engaged in intimate relations that involved erotic asphyxiation. Schabusiness allegedly choked Thyron to the point where his face turned purple and he started coughing up blood, but she continued nonetheless. After the man had stopped breathing, Schabusiness played with his body for 2 or 3 hours, as she later reported during her police interviews. Then she retrieved a knife from the kitchen, which she used to decapitate and dismember the victim's body. In the early hours of February the 23rd, Thyron's mother went into the basement where she discovered her son's head inside a bucket. 24-year-old Schabusiness was later found by the police at the same Eastman Avenue apartment where she and Thyron had gone 2 nights earlier. Investigators searched the woman's van, inside of which they reportedly found a crock pot filled with human remains. At the mother's house, the police found Thyron's upper torso in a storage bag and his male organ in the same bucket that also contained his severed head. Schabusiness claimed that at the time of her gruesome assault on Thyron, she'd blacked out as a result of the various substances she'd ingested. A hearing scheduled in Brown County Court for May the 19th of 22 had the aim of determining whether Schabusiness was mentally fit to stand trial for Thyron's horrific killing. Thanks for watching. Would you rather only have romantic relationships over the internet, or have all food and drink taste bland? Let us know in the comments section below.